A doll?
We might have a small problem with this video game. You see, one doesn't simply play NightCry. That's not the right verb. One suffers through it. One tolerates it. Or if we're being extremely generous, we could say that one experiences it. You see, inside me are two wolves. One of them really doesn't like talking bad about a video game because no matter how objectively terrible it may be, a game is still a work of creative art and most of them have something worth celebrating. And then there's the other wolf. The other wolf wants me to take a huge dump all over NightCry. Let's watch them fight. Welcome, y'all. Back when I covered Septentrion right after covering Echo Knight, I noticed that both games just happened to be set aboard cruise ships. So naturally, I invented a bit where I announced that this channel was going to pivot to only covering boat games. And we were all having fun, it was a good gag, until a few of you truly sadistic sons of guns jumped in the comments to direct me toward NightCry, another maligned boat game, and, well, more like Might Cry, because that's how I felt for basically the entire experience. So today we're going to find out how a game can take the fun idea of a slasher flick on a cruise ship and turn it into true hell, and you get to experience the pain with me. NightCry is a 3D point-and-click game wrapped up in a very violent horror slasher movie theme. It was developed by Nude Maker, which is essentially the people from Human Entertainment who started the Clock Tower series. And, well, Septentrion. And that should be a winning sales pitch for me. A spiritual Clock Tower successor with modern graphics and Final Destination style over-the-top death cutscenes, emphasis on the cut? Sign me up. But the technical issues are almost insurmountable on this one. They're definitely bad enough to fairly call the game unplayable, but it doesn't need to be unwatchable. I think I can still cobble together the NightCry experience into a cohesive video for y'all by gluing together the little morsels of gameplay and lore that come drip-fed between collective hours of loading screens and rough glitches. There's still some meme-worthy dialogue.
I need to lose some weight.
Over-the-top spooky moments. And, well, shall we say, a surprising plot, but there is an interesting story buried inside NightCry's tarnished exterior, like a little nucleus of nut meat we need to crack out of a tough shell, and I put in the work to crack it. Please, hold your applause. You're too kind. Let's establish just the tiniest bit of background before we start experiencing this game. NightCry came out in 2016 for PC, and by some act of God or the devil, also as a very late PlayStation Vita release in the year 2019. And as a famous non-haver of a PC, that's the version we're going to be experiencing today. Which, there's a reason none of the other coverage of this game uses the Vita port that we'll get to quickly. You might already be able to see it. NightCry did have some serious creative power behind it. Its executive producer is Hifumi Kono, who directed the first two Clock Tower games, so the semblance there is more than just homage. And they got Masahiro Ito of Silent Hill fame on the art direction. They also commissioned a live-action short movie to promote the game, directed by none other than Ju-on's Takashi Shimizu. It's not particularly entertaining, but it does yield a few drops of lore that I'll work in when they come up. I'll link that movie below, it's an interesting artifact. The last bit of context to note is that this game was crowdfunded. I say that with no subtext, either positive or negative, but the campaigns performed pretty well, and there were some cool backer rewards like getting your Scream used in the game. I may have some concerns on how they utilized their budget, but the footage will speak for itself there. The game is terrible. But I think that's enough introductions, so let's get experiencing NightCry and see if we can't squeeze some fun out of it. If you like the content, please do me a favor and hit some positive interactions on the video. It helps me keep covering obscure games like this one for y'all. And subscribe with the bell too if you want to be the first to know about future uploads. I also have a special surprise for Patreon supporters and channel members at the end of this video, so make sure to stick around. Thanks. Now let's see if we can redeem 2016's roughest horror game. Our experience begins on the cruise ship Oceanus, somewhere in the Caribbean Sea. The date doesn't matter much, but note that the time is 7:30 p.m., and I think the sun would still be visible in August. After a 32-second loading screen, our heroine Monica, her hair a luscious mess, bursts through the door on her way out of a cocktail party, where the coat check man is at work slicing someone's coat to shreds.
It seems you've had one too many drinks. Can I get you some water, ma'am?
Huh? Oh, I'm fine. I just need some air.
I see. Let me know if there's anything you need.
Yeah, I will.
NightCry is a point-and-click experience, so you'll want to click on everything and talk to everyone several times until the output starts repeating.
By the way, have you seen Harry?
Who?
Oh, sorry. Harry is a friend of mine. He's tall, short hair. I didn't see him anywhere at the party.
Someone came and left down the hall a moment ago. Maybe it was him.
Okay, thanks.
Then speak once again.
I never knew cutting up something could be so much fun.
Is it really that fun?
Yes. Didn't you ever try plucking the wings off an insect when you were a child?
Yeah, so only about a fifth of the voice lines in this game are recorded. I thought there was something wrong with my game at first, but nope, they just couldn't find the extra studio time in the budget to voice act most of the game. So we're going to be relying on my trusty old Macintosh text-to-speech again to do the game's job for it. Something is clearly amiss with Eric the coat check guy, cause peeking back through the door now, we see him scratching a nasty bleeding patch on his neck. This, along with his comments about itchiness, have me wondering if Eric is gonna zombify soon, a la Resident Evil. So we're playing as Monica Flores, a 20-something anthropology student whose goal for now is to look for her friend Harry, but first we've got to fart around in the ship's cafe where I notice this game's weird obsession with clean tabletops. Seriously, it's a really strange running bit. You can inspect various tables throughout the game and your character will make a comment on how clean they are. It never has anything to do with the gameplay. And yes, elephant in the room, Monica's running animation is unique. The other characters aren't better, but NightCry has enough actual problems to cover that these animations don't even make a blip on my radar. Everyone be nice to Monica. Tell her she's doing a great job. Eventually, sitting alone at a cafe table, we run into Vigo Boredzov, the owner of this ship.
Let me introduce myself. I am Vigo Boredzov, the owner of the ship.
Wow, you own this ship?
Yes. It always brings me joy to see passengers such as yourself having a great time on my ship.
Oh, I guess I'm enjoying myself.
You wouldn't happen to have a lighter, by the way? I'd like to boil my prosthetic eye to sterilize it, but I seem to have misplaced
Sorry,
my lighter.
I don't have one at hand. I don't smoke, so...
As our tutorial on items, Vigo wants us to grab some matches from the bar and light his spirit lamp so that he can publicly sterilize his eyeball. Which is completely degenerate, but hey, whatever floats the literal boat that you own. Once we come back with the matches, Vigo breaks the fourth wall to tutorialize how we can use items from our inventory. Except my experience broke? Sorry, I was gonna keep calling NightCry an experience rather than a game as a bit the whole video, but I kinda have cold feet. That's gonna get annoying. No matter what I press, my inventory is not opening up, so I have to force close and relaunch the game, but this time I do have an inventory and I'm allowed to get Vigo's beaker boiling. Grizzly.
Thanks, young lady. You were a great help. By the way, I've heard that there are certain items you can even use on yourself.
There are, and that comes up as the literal final action of the game, so I hope your memory is good. With Vigo's eye handled, shuffle our way down the plush red hallway to meet our friends by the elevators. We run into Kelly and Jessica, whom we provably did just see at the party, contrary to what Monica says here.
Here you are. No wonder I didn't see you two at the party.
Jessica got tired of the party, so I came along with her. I don't get why the best-looking guy here is like, obsessed with Rooney. What a joke.
Ah, you mean the conductor, Jerome?
Rooney and Jerome. Those are going to be important names in the third chapter of the game. For now, just learn that Jerome is the mysterious hot guy that our bitch brigade, their term, not mine, have all tried and failed to hit on. Jessica tells us that the Harry we're looking for is downstairs, so summon the elevator and... There appears to be a spooky Italian grandma chanting spells in the elevator. But I'm sure that's none of our business. Let's do our best to ignore her and arrive at the basement deck, absolutely clomping our way through these halls on our way to find Harry. Lot of haunted females around these parts, huh? But the problem with this one is that girl is actually someone else's haunting. Like, Monica just witnessed a different character's highly personal trauma ghost child.
I'm sure I saw that girl at the party. Why is she still on my mind?
She truly isn't supposed to be. I'd say it'll make sense later, but let's not kid ourselves. Anyway, Harry's waiting in the vending area up ahead, but before we interact, let's check out the machines. Monica is thirsty.
I'm thirsty, but I left my purse in my room.
So, NightCry is an unrepentant point-and-click game, and a common trope from the genre is to gotcha the player with an unsolvable puzzle or lock them into a bad ending way later on in the game as a consequence of something they miss or mess up early on. Indeed, this game is guilty of many evil point-and-click moments, and Monica's little side comment here about being thirsty but lacking the cash is the only hint we get on how to not screw ourselves out of the game's good ending hours and hours of playtime later. Anyway, Harry, dressed like a complete clown, teases us about how Jerome was immune to the attention of the popular girls. I'm not exactly sure why he was asking for us, that's all he has to say. And if we speak to him again, a loading screen begins. And continues. And continues. This is our first monster encounter, and it's kind of majorly ruined by this 1 minute and 9 second loading screen. What's worse, I had a trophy called The Scissor Walker Appears pop halfway through the load, so aside from feeling bored by the time anything happened, the surprise factor was completely gone. This is a game that's badly ruined by the trophy pop-ups. It's like watching a comedy movie with the subtitles on where the timing ruins the joke punchlines, but like way worse. So I did go turn those off after it happens another time or two.
Don't get yourself worked up now. Come on, I'll buy you a drink.
What? You think a soda will get you on my good side?
Hey, you're thirsty, right? Here we go. What the?
What is it now?
Well, something's grabbing my hand.
What?
I said something inside here grabbing my hand.
Oh, Harry, the Gregory Peck Act is a bit outdated, don't you think?
I'm serious.
Glorping slowly out of Harry's blood puddle is our first and trophy-spoiled encounter with the Scissor Walker. And y'all, I am seriously sorry for how bad this footage is. The Vita port of NightCry verges on unplayable at many times, and unfortunately those times always include the Scissor Walker chase sequences. So while this is supposed to be a tense moment, I'm forced to spend it explaining a broken game. The Scissor Walker is an invincible enemy, a hunched humanoid carrying a huge pair of shears who materializes out of puddles and cuts people. When she appears, more on her background later, the premise is supposed to be simple. Run away until you find a spot to hide or an environmental hazard that can turn it away, but there's no combat, we'll always have to run. Working against that is the game's unstable frame rate. NightCry often turns into a slideshow just from normally walking around, which on its own is tolerable. But during a chase, the Scissor Walker gets to cheat. Its position is still updating while ours gets frozen in the hiccup. Heck, she gets a full second or 4 head start on every chase scene while the game finishes loading. Fully half of the Scissor Walker encounters in my whole playthrough began with me mashing circle to get out of a preemptive attack that should not have been preemptive. The game is generous enough to let you quick time your way out of 1 attack per Scissor Walker encounter, but mine was often blown before I even got control of my character, leaving me with no breathing room during the actual escape. As far as the mechanics of escaping, the camera switches during these chase segments from being loosely fixed in position to being over our shoulder. That causes its own problems, as you'll see later, but the quick version is that the game won't let you interact with things you can't currently see. Like doors. You can see how that might be an issue. It's supposed to be a cool feature that we can hold D-pad down to glance behind us as we run away to see how close the monster is getting. I would have loved to make use of that, playing it up for drama in my footage, but using that feature exacerbates the frame drops, so I didn't bother after my initial test. There's also a stamina system at play. Monica can turn on the speed by holding triangle. But she'll start breathing heavy, and that's your clue to take a break. If you push yourself too far, you risk tripping and falling with a long recovery window. To avoid that, you can tilt the stick more gradually to walk slower and recover stamina. Now, I can see the elements of a fun game here. What they were going for was a tense minigame of glancing over your shoulder as you hunt for a hiding spot, sprinting when the Scissor Walker gets close, and then slowing to recover once you've gained some distance. But NightCry's chase sequences are simply not functional, at least on Vita, due to the heinous engine performance. So I had to give up having any fun on these chases and any attempts to play them correctly by managing my stamina. What worked best for me was just sprinting full tilt the whole time and praying that when, not if, I fall down, the extra distance that I had gained by sprinting would pay for the time spent prone. Sometimes it did. But if the scissor walker catches you while you're on the ground... The good news is checkpointing is quite generous in NightCry. Maybe too generous because the frequent autosaves do contribute to the frame drop problem. And you don't need to be out of sight to successfully hide either. The scissor walker can be right on your ass, but as long as you get the hiding spot clicked before she cuts you in half, the game counts that as a win. Ultimately, Monica survives our first chase by hiding inside a commercial clothes dryer, whereupon the monster dematerializes. So, why am I calling the scissor walker a her? Well, I promised I'd work in some lore from the NightCry short film, and the film shows us the origins of the monster. A young woman clings to the edges of a stone well as cultists chant and force her inside. They slice her face to deter her escape and make her fall back in to perish as a human and warp into the scissor walker who now slices people up aboard the Oceanus. That also establishes a connection between the scissor walker and water. It's not a strong affiliation or a rule or anything, but we see her appear and disappear from puddles. She was born in a well, and later she gets summoned by shower steam, kinda. So the scissor walker lore is ironically shallow overall, but we do know how she was created, and we do know she's at her most powerful around water. So it may be a bad time to be on a boat. Upon returning to the vending area, Harry's body is missing. But with this game, it's hard to tell if they meant for it to be stolen or if they just couldn't be bothered to pose the corpse. And we're free to inspect more tables for cleanliness.
Judging by the state of the table, the scratches must have been there for a while.
There's a non-Harry dead man sitting in the elevator. He's completely smooth. And we can relieve him of his phone since Monica isn't carrying hers, but it won't turn on. It seems to be out of battery.
It won't turn on. It seems to be out of battery.
We can charge that in a minute, but let's explore the floor some more.
Hey, I use the same bucket at home. But that's not important right now.
What? A small convenience store at the rear of the floor contains food, as well as 4 quarters we can nick from the cash register. To succeed at NightCry, you've got to inspect every interactable point in the world multiple times, because some items and events only trigger on your second click. That's not all bad. Like another game I recently covered, you get some hilarious characterization of your stoic main heroine by inspecting the junk.
Some snacks are on display. They even have my favorite, pretzels.
But be careful, because there's also 5 trap objects scattered throughout the game that trigger bonus scissor walker chases. If you're actually trying to be good at NightCry, your best practice would be to scope out the area for closets, bathroom stalls, or lockers to hide in before you go clicking on random objects that might trigger a monster chase. However, aside from scripted chases or traps you trigger by clicking on stuff, the scissor walker is not a persistent threat, which I prefer. She does not appear randomly. There's about 6 chases throughout the game, and more if you click on traps accidentally, but otherwise you can take your time exploring. But the scissor walker is not the only thing that can kill us.
Are you alive?
What?
Oh no, I'm failing the quick time event. Okay, you could convince me that a runaway dining cart was lethal for Monica if it severed her spine, but there's no way that crew member behind her should have died too. Monica must have daggers in her ass. And I won't linger on it, but just so everyone is aware how much of a martyr I am, I do suffer for my art. Every time I grab an optional death footage, it's minimum 2.5 minutes to load back into the game. The load game screen has a loading screen. Well, if we reload the game and let generic crew member take the hit alone... Come on, that's a better death scene than Monica got. But we can grab his card key after. And now is a good time to get our new phone charged. Aside from the laundry room, 3 passenger cabins on this floor provide hiding spots from the scissor walker. One of them is ours, another belongs to John Thompson, so I dip into his room to charge his phone at lightning speed. From now on, NightCry does make consistent use of the smartphone as a game mechanic. They actually do okay with this. It's got a flashlight that sometimes does matter for exploration. We can make and receive phone calls as part of the plot, and it gives access to this game's original social media platform called Snap and Post. It's got some dummy posts on it now from crowdfunding supporters, but the solution to some puzzles can be found on here too. For now, we can dick around on John's socials and make a post asking for help, but none of the numbers in his contact list pick up the phone when we call. The The phone's flashlight feature allows us to explore Monica's own room, which is dark, and it contains nothing special, but being here triggers our room phone to ring. It's our friend Jessica from before. Sounds like a freakish monster is killing people.
Help me! A freakish monster is killing people! What should I do?
It's okay. I've seen it too. You have to keep calm.
So our visit to Harry amounted to nothing, and our next goal is to return back upstairs to help Jessica and our other friends. Monica's really just clomping wherever the winds take her, huh? Unfortunately, the main elevators are out of order by now, between Italian witches and hacked-up husbands, but the staff elevator should have us covered. We've even got the keycard for it, thanks to Cartman. The staff elevator is still missing a fuse, classic gaming moment, but wouldn't you know it, John's wife Angie Brown calls us at the critical moment. She's only slightly surprised that a stranger answered his phone, then she delivers some great news. John happens to be an electrician, and he refuses to leave home without fuses, so we go and grab one of those out of his suitcase. Then, to pay Angie back for the kind help, let's retrieve her late husband's wedding ring. Those quarters we pilfered from the convenience store are just what we need to go pay for a drink at the vending machine, except what we get is not a beverage, but a helping hand, and John's highly important wedding ring. I'm not going to argue the absurdity of point-and-click logic, because you kind of sign up for that when playing a game in the genre. But it is true that you lock yourself out of the good ending at the end of this game if you don't find the quarters, or realize that they allow you to purchase a drink from the vending machine before you leave this floor at the start of Chapter 1. Now, there is one more game mechanic I want to cover before we leave this floor. Earlier I mentioned traps. Well, if we touch the freezer in the convenience store, the scissor walker bursts out for a bonus chase in effectively the same arena as before. Any of the same hiding spots from the last chase could work, but much like Roger Daltrey, the scissor walker won't get fooled again. If you ever try to reuse a spot, well... I guess the scissor walker has a sense of humor. Who needs giant shears when you can just tumble dry Monica on medium and let her own dagger butt take her out? But yeah, each hiding spot can only be used once. Okay, fuse, keycard, and the elevator is operational, though the lights flicker out and you die if you let the haunted grandma circle you like a shark too many times before you hit the elevator button. Once we make it to the main deck, the first door we reach is locked. It's drawn up in ketchup with an alarming graphic. 8 points in a circle surround a standing figure who looks like he's glorifying a huge scissors. Without the context of the short film, this would be our first hint that there's anything culty going on, that the scissor walker isn't just an isolated monster. But as we'll slowly discover, the scissor walker may just be one part of a larger, more sinister plot. Stay tuned. Our main goal for now is just to find Jessica. Passing through the cafe where Vigo boiled his eye before, it looks like most of the ship has been attacked since we went downstairs. There's a lump of flesh in the planter, but it's actually the bloodstain on the floor that triggers the trap chase sequence. Monica notices a neat circle of blood before glancing up to find a huge metal fan. And again, I'm sorry on behalf of the game for how choppy these cutscenes are. You can tell what cinematography they thought they were going for, and you kind of have to give them credit for the vision in order to appreciate it. I can say pretty definitively that anyone motivated to try NightCry after this should definitely skip the Vita version and play on PC. But the Vita version does have one redeeming quality: analog stick movement. On the PC, you're stuck clicking the environment to have Monica run to that point, which can make it hard to navigate through doorways or tight spots based on the camera angle. So, hooray for me, I guess. The Vita movement is a little better. But besides that, they really didn't polish the game in the 3 years between releases. Anyway, that circling corpse put us in a chase that I resolved with a fire extinguisher in a clock tower callback. And that actually places us right near Jessica. Inside this dark storage room, it looks like she found a nice hiding spot inside a locker.
Jessica? Thank goodness you're okay.
Narrator: Jessica was not okay. Cue another chase sequence. Unfortunately, that fire extinguisher only had one usage, and general game clunkiness does take my life before I can find another. So one of our friends is dead, the other is missing, and the ship's passengers are getting picked off rapidly. The scissor walker is dangerous, sure, but it seems that a lot of people have died very quickly. There's no way the scissor walker is acting alone. In light of that, Monica's best idea now is to get the hell off the boat. Let's make our way to the outer deck and see about a rescue, or perchance a lifeboat. To do that, we first gotta find this brochure that contains a map of the ship, showing a way to the deck through the balcony above the cafe, and that gives Monica the courage she needs to defy the velvet rope that was holding her back from going upstairs.
If that sketch of the ship's interior is accurate, I should be able to get onto the deck this way, but it's locked.
Fortunately, we did pick up the key we need in that storeroom alongside Jessica, so just slip in here. Yep. Among the death scenes in NightCry, there are certainly better ones and worse ones. If we turn our phone flashlight on before heading through that dark room, we dodge that death and actually reach the end of Monica's chapter as we run into the scabneck coat check guy Eric out on the deck. The two decide to look for more survivors on other floors, and their best idea to do that is to use an emergency rope ladder to move down the side of the ship.
There's an emergency rope ladder we could use to move down the side of the ship.
And with that questionable decision made, we leave Monica in the company of Eric as we pick up a new character and begin Chapter 2. By now, it's been over 2 hours since Monica left that party to begin the game. We're now playing as Leonard Cosgrove, professor of anthropology who has a special interest in the occult. That's awful convenient on a night like tonight. Actually, Monica and the other girls are all his students. We can infer they came on this cruise together as part of some kind of summer research project with business at one of the island stops, perhaps. Leonard is wrapping up a phone call to his coworker and romantic interest, Professor Maria Ortiz, who sounds like she's taking care of some of the still alive students. Let's hope Monica can find her way to that group. But working against that wish, the player is surprised to run into Eric, again, sans Monica, even though we just left those two together. What's going on?
I'm afraid we probably know little more than the passengers. All we know is that there has been a mass killing taking place aboard the ship.
Can we trust Eric? Leonard tells him we sent some students to take shelter in the cargo hold, which, if he's a bad guy, may not have been a great idea. Eric is also accompanied by Kobe, a crewmate who came to check on Leonard's shower?
You're the lad who came in to check on my shower. You really helped me out. I was screaming like a little girl when ice cold water started spewing out it.
Anyway, neither passengers nor crew have any idea who or what is behind the Oceanus killings. We've seen the Scissor Walker, who's powerful, but she's not omnipresent. Too many people are dying for this to be the work of an individual. The words pirates and terrorists are thrown around. And supporting the notion on the ocean that this attack was coordinated, all of the lifeboats seem to have been dumped. Kobe spots a bonfire on a nearby island, and the trio suspect it may be lit by survivors who took the lifeboats to get there. But did they need to take all of them? Or did an inside man launch some empty lifeboats to doom the other survivors? Luckily, we point and click our way into finding a bonus inflatable life raft, so Leonard and the gang decide to check out the island. It can't be a worse idea than staying on the murder boat. Once they hit a nice beach, Leonard orders the crew to stay with the raft. And aside from seeming like a bad call to us because we know this is a horror game, Leonard makes a good point. He doesn't expect to meet anyone bad there.
I'm not going to pick a fight with him. I'll be fine.
A little ways up the beach are several more life rafts, so a group did squander them to come here, and footprints lead away into the thicket. We catch up to their owners pretty fast, but it's not a group of friends. The sentry wearing a stone mask marks a very simple stealth section, which of course I fail on purpose for the cutscene. It's just Leonard grunting in place as 4 mask-wearing cultists close in on him.
What? No! Stop!
Hold on, though. Cultists? These are likely the guys who created the Scissor Walker in the film. But why? Was that a punishment? A sacrifice? Or did they mean to forge a weapon? The cultists act like zombies behind their stone masks. The few who surrounded Leonard were groaning wordlessly like the Walking Dead, so I believe there's some element of stupefaction mind control magic to their masks. That, or maybe they all ingested something before putting on the masks, but that's only speculation on my part. So what do these guys want? And who are they? Well, Leonard being an anthropologist is actually smart framing that the game uses to explain theories about the cult to the player. For example, this shack we reach contains books in a variety of languages, but Leonard doesn't suspect a multinational group would be shacking up together on this small Caribbean island, so he wonders if traveling visitors, perhaps from the Oceanus itself, might have been using this place. We also find a huge box of canned food, a propane tank dating to the 70s, and a faded Betty Page pinup from the 1950s, so this cult has likely had a presence here for a long time. Some human bones on the ground fortunately don't trigger the scissor walker, and we point and clickedly grab some rubber gloves and a baseball just in case they're important later. The last important feature in this shack is the ham radio. A note on the wall lists channels to contact multiple different boats, the Oceanus being one of them, so indeed, maybe this cult keeps an international membership aboard multiple ships, with the island serving as a sort of home office. Calling the Oceanus surprisingly has no effect, but calling the Venturer gets us a death scene. Some kind of miasma comes out of the radio and suffocates Leonard. In this case, the radio killed this video's star. The right channel to call is obviously the Coast Guard.
Cough, ahem. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is passenger liner Oceanus. Current status. Mass vessel immobile, requesting emergency assistance.
Roger
Over.
that. Relay vessel coordinates. Over.
That being one of the more obvious steps the player needs to take to achieve the good ending. With help now called, we continue up the peaceful, vibey hillside to a spooky cave where we find a glowing red pit inside a dark tunnel. And Leonard sees something moving down there.
What the?
It's a pit of naked, writhing bodies.
What monsters did this? Are they like the horrific Sone Bean clan of legend?
That one I had to Google, but again, Leonard's anthropology knowledge came in clutch. I guess they were a Scottish cannibal clan of folk legend who inspired The Hills Have Eyes. Anyway, these zombie bros are just chilling with awkwardly no sound effects. This could have been a pretty scary moment with a modicum of audio design. It really is noteworthy how cheap this game feels considering all the bonus crowdfunding they pulled in. All we can do in this room is grab a tube of superglue found among torn clothing at the edge of the pit. Then taking a different branch in the cave, we get another chance to fail an easy stealth section and get the exact same cultist death scene. I mean, the background is different, but they did just recycle the rest.
No! Stop!
Now, I have a bone to pick with the checkpointing in NightCry. The game is saving constantly. That's actually responsible for many of the frame drops. There are invisible thresholds every 15 yards or so that save your game, and saving makes it stutter, at least on Vita. And hold on, sub-complaint to my other complaint, because of how the camera changes work, you know how you can be suddenly walking the wrong way for a second in a game like this when the camera shifts? Well, when those moments overlap with autosave stutters, NightCry gets really annoying because you'll accidentally trigger the save multiple times. Anyway, with all of its checkpoints, NightCry is good about restoring you to life pretty close to where you've died, but it's not good about restoring items you've collected or actions you've taken. Autosaves mark your location, but not always your inventory, because when we reload this time, Leonard did not have his superglue, so I had to go grab that again. We can only hope that the game remembered that we radioed the Coast Guard. So, stealthing correctly, we find half of a stone mask behind the gong, then luckily Leonard has an excellent throwing arm and beams the gong with that baseball we picked up, distracting the guard long enough that we can move further. When the path branches again, duck left into a storeroom. Leonard again shows off his knowledge, analyzing the statue, noting it curiously lacks any symbolic or religious characteristics. It sure is creepy though. And then right in front of that, at a conspicuous mirror, is the rest of our mask.
Those people I saw along the mountain pass in the caves were wearing this mask. This one is split in half, though. I can't use it.
Now, I think this game once planned for the statue to come alive here, given its position in the mirror and how Leonard calls it out. But NightCry doesn't have haunted statue levels of budget. What do you think this is, a funded game? They just reuse the radio miasma death here if we don't click on a beer bottle to smash the mirror within a generous 30-second time frame. But if we do smash the mirror in time, we're safe to superglue the mask. Wait, yeah, this time it did remember the superglue. Moral of the story, check every time you reload a checkpoint in NightCry. And now Leonard owns a nifty disguise, his very own Mask of the Faithful. We're through with caves after that to discover the bonfire we spotted from the ship. Several faithful cultists stand around watching two bodies roast, and upsettingly, they're still occasionally wriggling alive. Yeesh. We'd better mask up to sneak by. Maybe they won't notice it's us from a distance.
Maybe they won't notice it's me from a distance.
But they also don't notice it's him from up close. We can walk right up and pester the cult now. Leonard observes how the cultists don't seem to recognize each other by their clothes and builds, supporting the theory that they have a rotating crew coming in and out on different boats. So if the bonfire isn't the survivors of the Oceanus, this is where Leonard realistically should have gone to rejoin Eric and Kobe. But now his curiosity is triggered as an anthropologist, so we press onward to discover the deepest mysteries of the Faithful Island. We enter a large cabin where Leonard feels safe to unmask. The game doesn't stop me from going right back outside to the fire though, where I'm expecting a brutal roasting death, except... yeah, it's the same copy-pasted cultist death again. In the cabin, on top of a tablecloth texture so bad that it stands out, and that's saying something, are nasty moldy dishes that Leonard calls sauce, and a smartphone. But we're not collecting this one. Touch it twice and we note down the contact info of its owner, Will Anderson. Now, there is a guard blocking the back exit to this cabin, so we can't go that way yet. Instead, in the other room, head up to the loft for some important plot development. On our first scan of the bookshelf, Leonard recognizes several books on the occult, in addition to many more books in Russian, a minor hint about the one Russian-named character that we've met so far. But looking at this shelf again is ultra important. The second time we look, we pick up a handwritten book, bits of it barely legible through the smudges, that seems to explain the cult's goals. From what I can summarize, it sounds like the group has been making human sacrifices over the course of 200 years in pursuit of immortality, and they mention a colossally large spell that's going to help them dissociate from the world. Then, if the Russian language books weren't enough of a hint that our bad guy is the ship's owner, Vigo Beredzov, a highly recognizable prosthetic eye is being sterilized on the desk. Seeing that, Leonard makes a bold but ultimately correct assumption that the eye's owner is the one in charge of the cult here.
I've got to let the students waiting back on the ship know about this as soon as possible.
With the power of social media, he warns anyone listening about the man with the prosthetic eye. Then there's an important severed hand of glory to grab that we recognize as a tool for repelling evil. And then if we attach a rope and rappel out the window here...
I need to lose some weight.
Yeah, it's the copy-pasted cultist death. Turns out the guard blocking the door also notices when a large old man tumbles down next to him on a rope. Now, I had mentioned problems with the game's checkpointing earlier, and it's this specific death and reload that absolutely screws me. Cause while we still have the Hand of Glory when we load the game does not remember other actions we've taken in the same room chronologically before collecting the hand. You would think if the autosave credits you for one thing that everything you did before that would be safe too, but in this timeline, Leonard hasn't read the smudged diary. This will have terrible consequences later. Anyway, the way we survive the rope descent is by calling Will Anderson's phone, which makes that phone down below start ringing, so the guard heads back inside to investigate, making it safe now to rappel down the rope. Pretty clever.
I need to lose some weight.
How did they pick which lines they voice act, honestly? Safely back on the ground, past the cabin, this island has really been quite a journey for Leonard. We shuffle up a peaceful, forested path toward a well. And I know this game has 100 more salient things to complain about, but this ecology is not consistent with a tropical Caribbean island. These tall oak trees and pines belong in a city park in the Midwest. I'm not sure I would have connected this without recently covering the NightCry short film, but this well is likely meant to be the well where the Scissor Walker was created, and the game is definitely more creepy if you realize that. Of course, the cult who pushed that poor woman down it are the faithful that Leonard has been sneaking by for an hour now. The well is deep, but we do see an artificial light source coming from the bottom. Sharp as a tack, Professor Cosgrove concludes that this makes a good reason to descend into the well via rope. Now, the game does make us click the well 3 times before Leonard climbs down, like James has to look at a hole 3 times in Silent Hill 2. It's uncharacteristically generous in helping us avoid this death, because we have recently seen that Leonard isn't very skilled at climbing ropes, and if we continue to insist, well...
Wait. Huh?
These GLP-1 commercials are getting out of hand. That actually counts as one of the game's official endings and not a simple game over. Having contacted the Coast Guard, the Oceanus gets found after a week-long search with nobody left on board, and the news report makes no mention of the gory murders. Maybe those got cleaned up, or the news chose not to horrify people with that minor detail. But we can still reload our game and continue playing like that was any other death. Also, that's the only time you encounter the Scissor Walker on the island. She's mostly confined to the ship, though tumbling into her birthplace and possible home is enough to summon her back there. Anyway, it's those non-slip gloves we found in the Radio Shack that enable a safe descent down the well and into a side tunnel where the light radiates. It's a cobblestone passageway bathed in a spooky red glow. Oh neat, ghost arms. That torch on the wall is interactable, but you know we gotta raw dog this tunnel first to get the ghost hands death. It is one of the better deaths in the game. But to safely advance, simply light our Hand of Glory on the torch. Despite a shaky QuickTime event and a spooky ghost jump scare, it looks like I made it across in one piece.
Looks like I made it across in one piece.
At the far side of Ghost Arm Hallway is the crux of this entire cultist island, what everything has been leading up to. An intense ritual room full of Babylonian dark magic. There's a big curtain disguising a secret passage in one corner, an altar covered in candles and goblets holding a wicked ceremonial dagger, and the room is dominated by an elegant black coffin atop a large ritual circle in blood. Interact with that a few times to open, and...
No. Jerome.
Jerome? Come on, we all remember Jerome, the person whose name dropped at the beginning of the game then forgotten about until now? The hot guy Monica and her friends were trying to hit on, who only had interest in some girl called Rooney, whom we also haven't met yet. Well, Jerome is alive in there, but he's sedated. His back shows many bleeding cuts, but oddly, also many older healed wounds too. This may not be the first time this ritual was performed using Jerome's special blood. That diary Leonard had found upstairs in the cabin did mention a charm of colossal scale. While climbing these stairs for a better view of the room, we realize there's an outline of a ship on the floor, surely the Oceanus, overlaying the ritual art. The charm is meant to act on the entire boat. Now, I'm skeptical of Leonard's exact conclusion from this, which is that the room only served as a test run for a ritual that's going to take place on board the ship. I don't think they do test runs of rituals like this. But the room is clearly connected to tonight's murders. I'd say more that there's a ritual in progress targeting the boat, but originating from this room with Jerome as the connective tissue. And we've learned the murders on board the Oceanus serve a goal. Those deaths are powering something else, the cult's massive ritual to overcome death. The Scissor Walker is merely a tool for spilling blood this evening. And Leonard's students, whom he sent to gather in the cargo bay, they're in grave danger. Well, having seen this room is enough to satisfy Leonard's professional curiosity. Let's head out the secret passage to the surface and get back to our raft. But Leonard is too kind of a man to leave Jerome behind, so he shoulders the young man all the way back to meet Eric and Kobe in an impressive display of strength.
Quickly, back to the ship. They're targeting the Oceanus.
The Oceanus? What do you mean?
I can explain later. We need to hurry. While you're at it, can you get this man a jacket? We can't have him freezing to death.
Yes, sir.
The fact that we give a jacket to Jerome ends up being important.
Oh, somehow we've made it back. We have no idea how many of them are on the ship. We'll have to eliminate... What was that explosion? Hey! Get back to the ship as soon as...
Someone wearing a jacket comes up from behind and knocks out Leonard to end the chapter. We're supposed to think Eric at first. We knew something was fishy about him when we started the chapter to find him without Monica. But Kobe's on the raft too. Or was that Jerome woken up from his nap in a borrowed jacket? I say like it's not super obvious. We're on to the third and final chapter that actually begins further back in time than the others took place. It's now only 6:12 p.m., the sky somehow still dark even though it's August. Lazy. The time now is 80 minutes before when Monica left the party to begin Chapter 1, and in fact, this final chapter begins at that party. We're in control of Rooney Simpson, the plain Jane girl that nobody except the professor seems to care for. And I might see why. A t-shirt and jeans is not appropriate clothing for a cocktail party. Uncouth. Though apparently Rooney only came to the party on the professor's wish that we do some socializing.
Holy hell, you actually showed up. Didn't think the Deathwish Diva had any interest in fancy does like this.
The professor told me to attend, so.
Deathwish Diva is a mean name the other girls have for Rooney because she keeps putting herself in perilous situations. Yeah, this girl does that. More on that soon. For now, we schmooze with the party guests to fill out Rooney's backstory and finally get some characterization for that Jerome guy who's also at the party. It's funny to hear him curve the women hitting on him.
I bet traveling the world together would be awesome.
Oh, I guess. But there's something to be said for traveling alone as well.
Kelly and Jessica are having the same luck. By talking to Professor Leonard and his girlfriend, Professor Maria Ortiz, we learn more about Rooney. We're one of Leonard's students, but also his distant relative and his ward. We lost our parents at a young age and have been living with the professor into adulthood. Leonard, a bachelor, is satisfied with the arrangement, but Maria is pressuring him to empty the nest. She barely conceals contempt for Rooney as she suggests we pair off with an eligible bachelor. Like, immediately, at this party. Lucky for all of us, Leonard is acquainted with the enigmatic orchestra conductor Jerome Thuriot, and he's able to introduce us. Their pre-existing friendship does explain why Leonard goes to such lengths to rescue him from the island ritual room later, but the player will definitely suspect this guy's allegiance at this point. And this is a minor gripe, but I turned the background music to 0 while filming, and the game disregards that setting during this long party scene, while a precisely 30-second jazzy saxophone loops over and over. Anyway, we move things along by speaking with Jerome, who's immediately enchanted to meet us. He also grew up without his parents, and he seems to be attracted to the shared trauma, flirting with us via classical music.
I'd like it if you came to hear my next performance. I'm scheduled to conduct on the night before the final day of the cruise, so come along if you're interested.
Oh, I think I will.
Then Rooney's next step is to head out on the deck and glimpse the void as we gaze out over the railing. We meet the ghost child that Monica somehow witnessed on the lower deck, even though she lives in Rooney's head.
The ocean at night seems to suck you in, don't you think, Rooney? Don't you think it would feel so nice to be sucked into the ocean? It's probably comfortable in the ocean, like a soft bed. It's a bit salty, so you should bring some candy. I like lemon and fruit punch flavored candy. It's sparkly and beautiful. It's like 1 billion stars are at the ocean floor. You're lucky. The sparkles are all yours. And you're gonna become a sparkle too. Rooney, can you wait for me down there? You can't take all the candy though. You should get some rest in the soft and comfy ocean.
Now, Rooney doesn't get many voice lines all game long, but as Jerome appears to save us from being lured into the ocean, we glimpse the true depth of her soul with this performance.
Oh.
Looking back on how Kelly had called us the Death Wish Diva, Rooney admits to Jerome that she often feels the compulsion to jump off a rooftop or run into traffic. And I know this could be interpreted as Rooney being self-destructive, but I don't personally think the game means to paint Rooney as depressed, at least without ambiguity. In fact, Jerome does confess to being depressed, using that info to bond, and Rooney immediately waves that off and says he has the wrong idea. She's been to psychologists, and they never diagnosed that. Plus, we literally just saw a ghost girl try to trick us into jumping into the ocean, and that was no mere trick of the brain, since we know Monica saw her too. That ghost is quote-unquote real. So, on top of the cult and the Scissor Walker, Rooney's gonna have to be on guard against a siren in this chapter who wants her to jump right into the ocean. And her name is Connie. Having come on very strongly about being a depressed orphan, Jerome invites us to his room for drinks. Though we only have 2 hours because he's scheduled to conduct the performance of a lifetime later tonight. Now, how exactly Jerome has time to take a lifeboat over to Cult Island, take drugs, and have his back sliced up in a ritual coffin while he's having drinks with Rooney is not explained to satisfaction by the game. I believe the writing simply wasn't careful about timelines. But that performance of a lifetime that he has in 2 hours, I have a bad feeling he doesn't mean music. By the time Rooney returns inside, Monica and the girls have moved on from the party, and they're presumably starting to play out the events of Chapter 1 that we witnessed. Rooney's job this chapter is to check on the other survivors, learn what she can about the island ritual thanks to Monica and Leonard's warnings that we posted on social media as those characters, and pray that we hit all the right triggers earlier in the game to reach the one good ending. After leaving the party, we find a cozy game room containing the ship's first mate Saul, who sees in Rooney what Jerome saw, and offers his contact info in case we ever need to better call him. His obsession with pool is a minor hint for later as well.
Wonderful games. Pool especially. I learned many of life's lessons by Eddie Felson's Q-tip.
Putting aside how funny this line is, one rare reason to love NightCry is its obsession with name-dropping real-world celebrities. I never would have known about 20th century American pool legend Fast Eddie Felson if not for this game. And earlier as Leonard, we got references to Betty Page and Christopher Lee that I skipped over, and the good old Sonny Beans. Something about real-world references is funny as hell in a busted horror game. It's like the game is insisting this could all actually happen. Then, as we go to join Jerome in his room, a startling cutscene. The Scissor Walker has found Jerome. And this is the only time all game that we get to watch her move without awful frame drops. The Scissor Walker evaluates Jerome, recognizing something in him, and though it's a dream he soon wakes up from, the scene establishes an understanding between Jerome and the monster.
Hey, are you okay?
Huh? Why do you ask?
You look a kind of pale. If you're not feeling well, I can come back later or...
Oh no. Stay. I had a short nap earlier. I must have had a bad dream. That's all.
Saying that Jerome is the master of the Scissor Walker might be a stretch, but saying that he controls it or that it emerges from his subconscious might both be true. I'm not sure Jerome realizes his relationship to the Scissor Walker, though. He thinks Rooney might share the same burden, perhaps because of the way Connie infects her mind. Then he goes on about Petrarch's epic poem called Triumphs, which will be important later, before telling us he ordered room service which is running late. Perhaps because the food cart is busy murdering dudes. Our sad boy host says he's gonna go check on it, but instead he just hops in the shower? Awkward way of escalating things, not that Rooney would be able to tell. Though Jerome being busy in the bathroom does give us the chance to snoop around his room and pick up the manila envelope that's been slipped under his door. Yoink! That's ours now, and just taking it might have bought the other survivors the couple of minutes that they need. When we finally check on Jerome's shower, a pretty bold move for Rooney, we get one of the game's longest loading screens. I really must emphasize how bad these get. A literal 20% of my gameplay time was this screen. And what are we even looking at? It's like a thin gray wisp of cobweb trying to poke out of the left side of the screen? Is it supposed to be the screen getting sliced by scissors? Because it does not look like that. Well, over a minute later, jump scare warning.
Good for you, Rooney. Your wish is gonna come true now. You can join a world of no worries.
Rooney, run!
Jerome?
Ooh, that's a lot to take in. For one, I do now think that Jerome set the monster free on purpose. The way he abruptly left to shower, and we know the Scissor Walker moves through water, I think he took his dream as a sign that it's time to begin tonight's performance. An orchestra of blood! But he still does seem to want Rooney in on it with him, and he doesn't have his monster on a short enough leash to fully protect us. Maybe he's not in control of the Scissor Walker after all, but merely its host. Anyway, this large Chapter 3 commercial area of the ship is our biggest arena for scissor walker chases, and it's worth getting familiar with the layout since you'll do at least a few chase sequences in here by the end. The center of the area is a movie theater with a large red lobby with stairs connecting multiple levels. I found refuge this time behind the racks of a clothing shop on the lower level. Then, once the horror is past, we have a decent chance to scope out the area before any more action needs to happen. It is clear now that Vigo installed many cult members as crew aboard the ship, and in conjunction with Jerome activating the Scissor Walker, coordinated them to begin slaughtering the ship's passengers and non-cult crew members as the clock struck 8-ish tonight. And some of the crew had a little too much fun with the killings, cause tell me which personality hire took the time to stick a severed head on this mannequin. There's a bunch of these minor scare moments called horrors that you can collect in NightCry, like the deaths and the endings. And if this game was just a little bit smoother to play, I would have taken delight in finding all of them and showing you the best ones. As it is, I left more meat on the bone for you to go play the game and enjoy. Stepping into a children's playroom, a haunted vision starts to fill in the lore behind that Connie girl who haunts Rooney.
I'm amazed you're still alive, Rooney. It's a very bad thing to kill people, right? So you need to be punished. Mommy and Daddy would lock you up in the closet for the night. But I'm nice, so all you need to do is play with me.
We learn that Connie was likely our sister, and Rooney killed her. Allegedly, I'm sure it was an accident, but it sounds like their parents still abused Rooney as punishment, which explains how she ended up under Leonard's care. And the guilt of losing her sister is what makes Connie still haunt her 14-ish years later. We can check behind the blocks in the same room for a scissor walker trap. Yeah, I got absolutely robbed by the frame rate on this one. And you can whip your dead body around like a skip bow while the game over screen loads. This game is a train wreck. What we actually need out of this room is to check the crib and then quick time our way out of a doll attack. This is my favorite death in the entire game, so I'm gonna let us enjoy it. It's not even articulated at all. There's not a single animation bone. It just pesters us until we fall over.
Hey!
All it takes to survive is a literal single button press, and we can collect a billiard ball from the crib afterward. As far as game progress, Rooney finally finds a trace of the survivors when we check out the movie theater and meet an old frenemy passed out in the seats.
Kelly? Kelly!
Rooney. I feel like I just got back from hell.
Did the monster get to you?
I was running from it, then I fell and hit my head. Ouch! It's left a lump, all right.
Did Kelly turn slightly Australian at the end there?
It's left a lump, all right.
One positive thing I can say about the writing in NightCry is that they did give a bit of character arc to Rooney. The poor traumatized girl, teased by her friends as the Death Wish diva because Connie makes her use the crosswalk before the walk sign comes on, is now showing her will to live by escaping the murderous Scissor Walker and becoming a hero to the girls who once bullied her. Kelly wastes no time hustling to the cargo area to shelter with the other students, and soon gives us a phone call to direct us there as well. But first, I visit a cozy bar room on the upper level that serves no purpose other than to give us a second billiard ball. Got plenty of tables to inspect, though. Okay, let's visit the shopping area's storeroom and finally see which survivors are holed up there. Turns out they were all right next to the clothing store where we hid just a moment ago. The crew is motley, and Monica is not among them. First, we speak to Kelly again and tell her our plan to go back outside and search for more survivors. Our death wishiness is turning us into a hero, which gets a bemused reaction from Kelly. She shares Monica's contact info, but remember, Monica's not using her own phone. She's got John Thompson's. Fortunately, John's wife, Angie Brown, is here too, and she shares his number once she hears that we're gonna go save people. Professor Leonard is out on his big island adventure right about now, so we try to comfort Professor Maria, who has a very immature response. She's salty that he's the one missing while the girl she despises is the safe one. Don't love her attitude. And the final important NPC here is Viggo Boradsov himself, which creates a great bit of dramatic irony. The player knows he's no good by now thanks to the discoveries of the other playable characters, but Rooney doesn't suspect him. Viggo is surprised at first that we'd want to leave the safety of this room, then he reconsiders.
Reckless, for sure, but perhaps it is precisely the kind of person who may have the chance to experience eternity.
He seems to admire our bravery and hands us a key for a back stairwell out of the movie theater. Hi, Editor Mothy, who didn't notice before, but Rooney points out some water leaking into the room here. Huh. Then, as we head not to that stairwell, but to the game room again, I want us to remember the phrase Viggo used, experience eternity. We heard whisperings of overcoming death in that smudged diary that Leonard read, but this cult doesn't use the phrase immortality. It's like they found a way to stretch time rather than a way to make a body deathless. Anyway, about that game room, check out Saul's body. He's been killed with darts to the face, but be ready to pass a QuickTime event if you don't want to die in the same fashion. Surviving that QuickTime event also then triggers a scissor walker chase, where the monster gets a generous head start from lag, but luckily Jerome's cabin just next door is now open to us if we turn on our flashlight and then hide under the bed. Then, with those back-to-back deaths avoided, revisit Saul's body again to collect his VIP keycard, which ultimately unlocks the ending areas of the game. But before that, we need to deal with the cargo area. You'll be seeing this place a lot if you're collecting multiple endings in NightCry. We are close to the end of the game, by the way, but a series of flag checks can still yield 6 different endings based on what we've done, or not done. Let's get after it. On a calm staircase, on the way into the cargo area, meet Jerome, who got out safely.
Jerome, you got out safely.
I did. And you seem to have gotten out with only a few scratches. Thank goodness.
Earlier, I mentioned how the timing of Jerome's story didn't add up. I can't tell if this encounter with him is supposed to have come after his trip to the island ritual room or before, but neither option fits. The best I can tell, this exact moment should be right around the middle of that journey, when he should be very much shirtless, bloody, and unconscious in a coffin. But this has to be before that, allegedly, because we do witness that big explosion on the ship as Leonard, Eric, Kobe, and Jerome take the raft back to the Oceanus, and that explosion hasn't happened yet. So either Jerome must very quickly helicopter over to lie in that coffin after this encounter, or the game just wasn't written carefully. Never count out that option. Or I guess there could be 2 Jeromes, but no. And speaking of inconsistencies, after we jump down the final broken stairs, we get a call from Jessica warning us not to trust crewmate Eric. The only problem is, Jessica's absolutely dead and stuffed in a locker by now. Fishy. Brushing that under the rug, in Cargo Bay 1 is another QuickTime event for a falling container, immediately chained into a scissor walker chase. This tight space makes this one of the least avoidable attacks at the start of a chase scene, but luckily this chase itself is the easiest one of all. Simply click on the conveyor belt that's right here to crawl through it. Though there is another QuickTime event once on the conveyor belt. It's apparent that the scissor walker retains a sort of human intelligence because she's able to start the conveyor belt and make us convey backwards into her shears. But if we dodge the container, escape the monster, and then button mash to crawl extra fast, we make it to...
Whoa! Oh! What was that?
That was the explosion Leonard and company saw as they rafted back to the Oceanus. The explosion is never explained, by the way. My theory is that our culty crewmate set it off to breach the safe room and access the other survivors. And if that's the case, we'd better act quickly. This large room I call Cargo Bay 2. It's actually extra large, but a steel gate splits it in the middle, so we have to do a sluggish crane operating minigame every time we want to go back and forth. But first, Monica? Her broken necklace lies in an open container, indicating a struggle. And if we try calling her, well, calling John, it sounds like a phone is ringing somewhere nearby.
It sounds like a phone is ringing somewhere nearby.
Unfortunately, the game didn't actually implement 3D audio, so you can't listen for where it is. You just have to click on containers until Rooney finds the right one. But it turns out to be locked. So we figure out just enough forklift driving to be dangerous. Then head inside the busted container to find the busty blonde herself.
Monica, are you alive? Sorry to disappoint you. Rooney, how come you're here?
No reason.
Oh,
I didn't cut the audio there. They only recorded 20% of that line for Rooney. Monica, like Kelly, is amused that the girl with the death wish is the one suddenly playing hero. And as far as how she got here, and what happened after she met Eric, well, it sounds like there was no struggle. She hid in here on her own, likely on the professor's advice, but someone did lock her in from behind. Could Eric have actually been protecting her? And then the necklace just fell off on its own, I guess? Anyway, the women take a soft moment to find strength in each other. Both of them are discovering a drive inside that they didn't realize they had on behalf of other people. Monica specifically reminds me here of Count Dolokhov from War and Peace, as we learn she's raising her little brothers alone. Dolokhov is this pretentious dick you're supposed to dislike, until the book reveals he's the only one taking care of his sick mom and disabled sister, and he's actually an angel to them both behind closed doors, and then you kinda get it. So, the two share their knowledge and try to piece together tonight's events.
The professor did send us an unusual message. You saw it too, right?
No. Lost my phone ages ago.
Okay, I laughed out loud at that line. They figure out, with help from Leonard's snap and post, that Vigo is the chief bad guy here, so now Rooney knows whom she needs to stop. Then keep speaking to Monica until she hands over John's wedding ring from Chapter 1, point and click doing point and click things, and then we play around with a crane for several minutes to carry us over to Cargo Bay 3. Down the stairs and through a door here is a startling NPC encounter. It's the suspicious, but maybe still good, Chief Purser Eric.
I'm the Chief Purser, Eric. I'm just taken aback that someone's still alive. I was with an acquaintance of yours, Professor Leonard, up until just now. But things got out of control and I was thrown overboard. In fact, I've only just gotten my hair and clothes dry. Aha.
You were with the professor? Where is he?
Calm down, Miss Simpson. I don't know where he is myself. We went ashore to an island in search of clues. I was suddenly thrown into the sea on our way back. Somehow I managed to find my way back on board. But the professor was also thrown into the sea too.
There was another man thrown into the sea with them, the other crewman Kobe, who lies here dead and drowned without a jacket, since Leonard had made him give that to clothe Jerome. Well, it sounds like the air ducts in here could lead us to an elevator, but Eric's hesitant to bother climbing in there while the elevator's still out of power, and the machine to restore that power is itself upstairs, a quandary. The solution here is to dial a quick call to Kelly, who gets the elevator running after some hesitation. But before we take the air duct, continue speaking to Eric. Once we mention Monica, Eric buys himself some good guy points by handing us medicine for her.
They're antibiotics. Her wounds might not be deep, but there's still reason for concern. If left alone, she could develop blood poisoning. Both you and your friend should ingest them.
Just why he thinks Monica might have wounds that need treatment is up for debate, but if Eric was a bad guy, would he really offer us life-saving medication? It is real medicine too, because we get a bad ending later on if we lack the patience to run back to Monica now, doing the slow crane thing twice more, and take the antibiotics with her. It's just so odd the way he tells us both to take those pills. My best theory about Eric is that he might have been a cultist plant among the crew who then had a change of heart and now wants to help the survivors. That theory isn't at all supported by the game, but the writing clearly did want us to be uncertain whether Eric is a good or a bad guy, and a changing allegiance kind of explains some of Eric's odd behaviors. After several minutes spent bringing the medicine back to Monica, it's time to check out those air vents. As we head up the ladder, Eric has a final warning for us. When we reach a branching path, take the duct marked number 13. Then we get a classy chase cam of Rooney's posterior crawling through the vents for half a minute. Maybe they just want us to see her jeans texture up close, because it is the highest quality texture in the game. Then at the branch, if we choose to distrust Eric and take the branching path marked 12...
Huh?
Thankfully, the checkpoint for that death was right here. So, going into number 13, like he said, it turns out to pass directly above the storage room where we last saw the group of survivors. The one that I fear the explosion opened up. Because the scissor walker has made it inside there, and Professor Maria, well... she's giving us a heads up. And if we fail to keep our composure, scissors get us too. But if we try that again and keep quiet, Rooney plops down safely in a medical room, bathed in haunting red light, to confront her demons. This room is not out of place on its own. A cruise ship does need a medical center, but it contains what is, for me, the most disturbing scene in the entire game.
Professor!
No. No. Help me.
Professor Leonard has been flayed and somehow preserved. His skin and muscles are all stripped from the neck down, with his bones and vital organs left intact, floating in a viscous liquid. And, horrifyingly, he's alive, but he doesn't seem to be able to see or hear. He's locked in his own head, in pain, being kept alive by life support. Side note, who possibly had the time to do this to him? He could not have been knocked out by Jerome more than 15 minutes ago on the raft. Most horrifying of all, I discovered that I can't turn off Leonard's life support. I mean, I'd want to do that anyway to put an end to his suffering, but I can't turn it off, and I'm supposed to be able to. We are locked out of the good ending if we don't euthanize the professor here and now. And nothing is more terrifying than the prospect of having to replay a long section of NightCry to fix a mistake from a previous chapter. No, hold on. Mistake is the wrong word. I did everything right. The game stole this from me. It's time to bring that checkpointing issue full circle that I've set up a couple of times now. I said it was the death from rappelling down the rope before calling the cell phone to lure the guard inside that screwed me. When I reloaded from that, I still had the Hand of Glory in my inventory, so I proceeded with my day. But the game had not saved the fact that, as Leonard, I perused the smudged diary to discover the cult's goal of defeating death, even though I did that before picking up the item that was saved. And if you haven't read that, Leonard begs for help here rather than death, and Rooney lacks the guts to kill her professor and stand in father. And if we don't kill him, well, we do get an admittedly cool death scene. Actually, this one counts as one of the endings to the game. The monstrous professor catches up with us in the next hallway, mentioning that dying in a certain way curses you with a form of immortality. So that's Vigo's line about embracing eternity explained. The cult's faithful are slaughtered in some sort of special ritualistic way that allows them to live on forever as monsters. Perhaps as a friend, Jerome gave Leonard the eternity treatment, and this is what that looks like. Then we get another minute of control before Spine Leonard embraces us in the elevator, whispering about eternity in our ear, vaguely sexual, as he does what he probably sees as a great favor by killing us. Despite my best efforts, we've actually been on a dead-end timeline of the game for the past 2 hours and had no way of knowing. At least the game provides a good selection of prior points to load and a decent flowchart with color-coded outcomes. And this truly wouldn't sting if the game was programmatically tighter. It's the loading screens and the occasional not-your-fault deaths from performance chugs during chases that really make this game feel bad to replay. I wouldn't normally be afraid of playing a section twice. But I didn't invest all this work just to give up now, so let me go ahead and replay most of Leonard and Rooney's chapters real quick, a good 50% of the game, to get us back on the proper timeline. Read the book, wear the gloves, rescue Jerome, get betrayed by Jerome, then we're Rooney, schmooze at the party, Jerome's room, Scissor Walker attacks. Hold on, this one took a few tries because the camera glitched on me and refused to rotate, and you can't open a doorway if it's not on the screen. Okay, billiard balls, survivors, cargo room. Even knowing exactly what I'm doing, it took a solid hour to speedrun this content. And I'm almost glad this happened how it did, because this exact experience is so emblematic of NightCry, and it's important to include that reality in my discussion. It will rob you, so be prepared to play parts twice. I did my best to make the game fun to watch, but it is downright hostile to play. Whew. Well, this is interesting. The shipping container Monica's locked in is actually different from last time. I can't believe they coded that for replayability. Then medicine, Rooney's butt, and we're finally back to where we're meant to be. This time, instead of asking for help, the professor has a different plea.
Kill me.
And with the professor begging for oblivion, Rooney has the gumption to do what's right. Hey, do y'all remember Connie?
Incredible! You killed him! You really killed him! Killing again, Rooney. Killing me wasn't enough, was it? I'm curious. How does it feel to kill someone? Hey! Where are you going? He was a to you, you know. You aren't gonna act as if nothing happened like you did when you killed me, are you?
Shut up, Connie!
Huh?
I remember what really happened that day. We were on a boat. I was reaching to grab your hat because the wind had blown it into the lake.
What?
But you tried to push me in from behind.
No! That's a lie! You're lying!
But it was you who fell in, and you got caught in the boat's propeller. That's what really happened.
Lies, 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 lies! You're twisting the story to make yourself look good! Ah! Yeah!
No, that's what you've been doing, Connie. You were always mean to me. I guess that didn't change even after you died. But I don't intend to beg for your forgiveness. I'm going to go on with my life.
Connie's actor does a hell of a job here. This is the best dialogue in the game, but maybe I only feel that way because it's voice acted and doesn't stutter too bad. It develops Rooney's character even more. With the professor's death symbolically letting go of her past, we're also able to reconsider Connie's death for what it truly was. An accident, and one that was the other girl's fault nonetheless, that we've been unfairly bearing the guilt of for 14 years. So with newfound courage, Rooney casts out her ghost and moves on, stronger than ever. The next hallway, Leonard no longer attacking us, is collapsing as a result of that explosion from earlier, which, again, is not really explained. Maybe the ship was meant to sink as a coup de grace for tonight's ritual. How come it that King Windsor, the Oceanus, sink? When we're not busy getting a bad ending with Spine Leonard here, the Scissor Walker does emerge from the one flooded section in the hall, but it's trivial to zap her with a sparking wire, the only clickable object in the level. Once she's gone, we're finally free to take the elevator that Kelly powered on for us, leading back to... It's the main shopping area, and the familiar clothes shop. If we peel back the dressing curtain, Angie Brown is actually chilling in there. She must have escaped when the Scissor Walker got into the storage room. Angie doesn't know if any other survivors made it out in the confusion of the attack. But we are finally able to turn in her husband's wedding ring that Monica pulled from the severed hand in Chapter 1 to close the lid on another bad ending.
And John's, he's...
I thought so. I thought that might have been the case from the moment Monica answered John's smartphone.
Our prize for safeguarding that ring for 3 chapters is the third and final billiard ball. Angie also teaches us how we'll use them, says they might be a dying message from Saul, and they absolutely are. Combined with Saul's final snap and post, they teach us the code for a coming keypad. Then there's one final Scissor Walker chase in the game as we pass through the theater lobby that I intentionally reused a bathroom stall hiding place to rack up another death scene. Scissors to the face is actually pretty gross. Or we can reuse Jeremy's bed for another death. Stabbed from above, just when we think we're safe. But when we want to survive for real, the movie theater seats are one viable spot that I haven't used yet. Then, with the VIP card we lifted off of Saul's body a while back, Rooney rides the elevator up to, well, the VIP area of the ship. Captain's cabin and stuff. Speaking of, we reach the captain's cabin with another table to examine and a nasty heap of flesh lying out on the floor. Someone got immersion blended in here. Gross. On the captain's computer, we strangely find Vigo's diary translated partially from Russian, which I guess means that the captain got suspicious and stole his boss's diary and started deciphering it. Which actually makes sense given the meat on the floor. He must have been discovered.
My daughter Yolanda, who carries the second one, will finally gain my child. Before this result was confirmed, how many days and nights were exchanged? My daughter, who carried the immoral child, should gain the right to exceed humans, next to Babylon the Great. Another one is the illegitimate child Otto. He who is my son is my grandchild and catalyst. In the water that represents the people, a cocoon is reborn into a beautiful moth because Yolanda is waiting. Cut apart from this world and capture freedom. I can hear their joyous voices.
That's cryptic, but let's break it down. So Vigo's got a daughter, Yolanda, and he bedded her for many nights until she bore him an inbred grandson, the immoral child. They named him Otto, and he's destined to catalyze a transformation for the masses. Water will be their cocoon, and tonight is surely the transformation. Cool story. So, back in the hall, I'm expecting to put in the billiard ball code and start getting some final cutscenes, but, Vigo's not supposed to be guarding the hall. This bad ending is only supposed to happen if you didn't turn in the wedding ring. What happened?
Hello there, miss. This area happens to be it's not the kind of place a passenger should be wandering into. You know, I'm Vigo, the owner of the ship. Apologies, miss. But I'm going to need you to take a little nap here.
Yeah, this one's on me this time, not the game. I messed this one up legit.
I was waiting. You finally made it here, Rooney. Now, we can play together. Forever.
It turns out, when we encounter Jerome on the stairs leading down to the cargo area, we're supposed to hand him the envelope that was slipped under his door while he showered. He then opens it in front of us to find a photo of him as a child.
This is a photo of me as a child.
Jerome told us he was adopted out as a young child, but this damaged photo shows his real parents, back before his name was Jerome. From here, we play on, doing the whole cargo area again, and several moments later, back up in the VIP area, Vigo's not guarding the door, so it looks like we're in the clear. Pool balls do give the door code for Vigo's personal room. Rooney comes across Vigo's old eye sterilizing station. This thing really makes the rounds. And something Mother Earth. But this office appears to be a dead end until we solve a puzzle on the bookcase to reveal a hidden passage. I guess Vigo's a big fan of the same poet Jerome is, cause it's a simpy DM from Jerome on Snap and Post that actually teaches us how to order these books based on Petrarch. Then through a, dare I call it cozy, PlayStation 1 gradient hallway, I wish more of this game looked like Final Fantasy VII, whom do we find but Jerome? Did he follow the clues here as well?
Jerome, you followed the clues here, as well?
Yes. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, the ship's owner, Vigo. So, I was here searching his quarters, when I happened upon this hidden room.
So, the ship's owner was behind this after all.
You... what? Even with the eyeball boiling station, the computer text about banging his own daughter, and warnings from Leonard and Monica, we still didn't connect the dots that Vigo was evil? Well, these two lovebirds are interrupted by the sound of approaching scissors, so Jerome hurries us out of here while he stalls for time. And down the ladder is the same copy-pasted cultist from 10 other times this game. But no, really, it's an entrance to the ballroom where we're surrounded and subdued to wake up later in a hospital bed with the Night of Terrors behind us.
Hey, nice of you to join us again, Rooney.
Jerome, where are we?
We're in a hospital in Miami. We were rescued. It's all over now.
It's over? Finally.
We'll be just fine. You've got nothing to worry about, Rooney.
The fact that Rooney's covered from the chest down has me suspect that she might have received the Leonard Eternity Spine treatment under there. Okay, this bad ending was on purpose too. It's a relatively cheap one to achieve by doing everything else right, but just not making the connection that Jerome is in fact Vigo's son, Otto. On reload in Vigo's office, we can find the same family photo of Otto, or Jerome, that finally paints the full picture for Rooney. Vigo may be the mastermind behind the cult, but Jerome, the immoral son, is his right hand and his weapon. And I believe Vigo meant to deliver a copy of this photograph directly to Jerome in his room earlier as a way of welcoming him to the fold. By the way, it's never clear to me whether Jerome began this evening aware that Vigo is his evil cult dad planning to murder the ship, or if he makes that discovery and then goes along with it. The writing just isn't tight enough to conclude either way. We're also going to open Vigo's safe this time. He's got bundles of American cash and a velvet case containing a second false eye, the Eye of Kassites, who were an ancient Babylonian people. We scoop that up, but disappointingly, Rooney is unwilling to compensate herself fiscally for tonight's troubles. Hey, I woulda. Monica took those quarters. So, having determined Jerome's connection to Vigo officially, the scene down the passage is different. We don't meet Jerome, and we end up in the very ballroom that kicked off tonight's action. The floor is dominated by a spell circle in blood, and surrounding it are the puppeted corpses of everyone who's been killed by the Scissor Walker tonight. It's the arrangement previewed by that ketchup art from earlier. Amidst a couple of unnamed partygoers, likely crowdfunding supporters, we find the arranged corpses of Angie, Jessica, Kelly, and even Eric. Now, we've earned this final cutscene with our tears, so I'm gonna let the whole thing play.
I'm surprised to think someone outside our brotherhood has made it this far.
Wait, I know you.
That's right. I'm Vigo Baratsov, the owner of this ship. We met in the cargo hold, Rooney. A belated greeting. Welcome to the Oceanus. I hope you enjoy your cruise with us to our eternal paradise.
No! Let go of me! No! No! No!
Don't struggle, Rooney. Father's going to take us to eternity.
Wait. Huh? That voice.
You okay, Rooney?
Monica, what are you doing here?
I told you I would be right behind you.
Jerome?
Forget about him. It doesn't matter how much of a big shot celebrity he is if he's lost his mind. Stupid door! Why won't you open?
Jerome, you rat! The player actually gets control again here for one final moment. The good ending for NightCry has two sub-endings based on how we act. If we can't figure out how to repel the Scissor Walker one final time, the Coast Guard, summoned by Leonard, do eventually show up to rescue a single survivor from the drifting Oceanus. It looks like Eric somehow. Happy for him, I guess. But if we recall Vigo's fourth wall-breaking advice from the start of the game about using items on ourself, we're able to use the Eye of Cassites to change our fate.
You still haven't let go of your death wish?
You're right. Sorry, Monica. I'm gonna survive. No matter what it takes. No matter the cost.
Rooney scoops her own eyeball out digitally, as in using her fingers, and mind you, the Scissor Walker is patiently waiting for us as soon as we begin the operation. Then once we pop in our new, very old eye,
Revenge is yours! Destroy the man who turned you into a monster!
I do try to go easy on the creative work in any game, but Vigo's comeuppance voice acting is so offensively bad, it's a middle finger to players who suffered the miserable campaign to make it this far.
Wait! Wait! This can't be! No! No! This can't be! Wait! Wait! No, no. No. Hey! No, no, no! Wait! Wait! What are you doing? No, you can't. No. No, wait! Wait! No! 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 Wait! No! Wait!
After Vigo's soul juice comes flying out, the Coast Guard shows up to rescue the night's 2 survivors, Rooney and Monica. I guess Jerome sorta crumbled into dust once we handled his bad dad, and Eric couldn't find the stairs this time. And that is the barely playable story of NightCry. There are a few more endings beyond what we've seen. If we don't deliver the medicine to Monica, then Rooney crumples over when she gets to the medical room. It's basically the same scene as when Vigo gasses us for missing the envelope, but it does count as a separate ending officially in the collection. And then there's one more ending I actually tried and failed to get. You can end the game badly in Chapter 1 if Monica reaches the deck without making a snap-and post on John's phone about the night's murders, but the checkpoint that I used to try for this ending wasn't far back enough, and I just don't feel like replaying the game from the literal beginning for a half-baked ending where Monica just falls in the ocean. This video was an experiment for me. I love celebrating the good parts of video games, and I'm usually so forgiving with technical mistakes as long as I can see the artistic vision underneath. But NightCry is mechanically miserable to experience, with so little to appreciate between all the issues that I was forced to be kind of mean in this retrospective. Aside from any technical issues, the writing here is a mess. I went into NightCry hoping I could at least piece together some cool lore and establish my own theories, but the game doesn't even respect itself. Jerome teleports, Jessica makes phone calls when she's dead, the explosion has no purpose. How did anyone have time to dissolve most of Leonard's body? Why can Monica see Connie, and why do inanimate objects attack? Like, aside from the Scissor Walker and the cult, the ship seems to be haunted by poltergeists. The funny running animations are forgivable, and even the long loading screens, but the awful performance once a level has loaded is not. Scissor Walker chases weren't even tense, much less fun, because my only goal was to end them expeditiously rather than play them up for the camera. When you only have one main enemy in your whole game, you really should make sure the game is capable of rendering it correctly. Then, there's the inconsistent voice acting. I actually might have covered this game a little sooner, but I thought my copy that I had was glitched when Monica stopped speaking her lines right after the first couple at the beginning. It's totally random which dialogues got voice acting throughout the game. I did not want to crap on the crowdfunded nature of the game, but seriously, what was that budget for if not voice acting? They certainly didn't put it toward quality assurance, or visual assets, or sound design, or post-launch support. Bros blew their budget hiring some big names, blew the rest on a movie, then produced a heap of actual garbage, loosely tying together a couple of cutscenes that they audaciously sold as a video game called NightCry. But like, we can still find some positives in all the mess. It is what we do here on the channel. The plot structure is pretty cool. I liked playing out 2 concurrent storylines for Monica and Leonard to witness the horrors of the ritual attack before we then played the long Chapter 3 as Rooney that showed how it all started and how it ended. The character designs are charming. Monica starting out mean, but then turning out badass. Leonard turns out not to be a stuffy professor, but a fearless adventurer, a decent climber, and a hero as he carries Jerome back. Then Rooney gets a good arc, and all the supporting cast are colorful. They did a decent job making us like the people that we have to save. And yes, it's hard to mess up, but there are a lot of creative, shocking, and even funny deaths in the game, when they don't stutter through the entire animation. I definitely cannot recommend touching this game on the Vita, but maybe I could see an argument for playing it on the PC if you're a big fan of 2000s era slasher movies, as long as you take extreme caution to repeat your critical actions anytime you need to reload the game. Thanks for watching me suffer, y'all. I'm happy I was finally able to deliver on another boat game. Let me know if there's another horror game set on a ship that I should be covering later. Do subscribe if you want to catch future videos on obscure horror games like this one when they come out, although normally the games are a bit, better. And, as a special treat, I'm testing out a fun new way to thank my patrons and channel members for your kind support over the months. I wanted to figure out a cute on-brand way to thank y'all, so every supporter now gets a low-poly worm or a moth based on your tier. And if you'd like to join and add your membership to the channel, I'll add your creature to the garden as well. Thank you. Okay, I've got to go play a better game now as a palate cleanser. Maybe I'll finally grab the Platinum Trophy on Prey. Stick around for more. Love you.